Daily life in ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt, a civilization that flourished along the banks of the Nile River for millennia, offers a fascinating glimpse into a world that was both highly advanced and deeply rooted in tradition. Daily life in ancient Egypt was a complex interplay of social roles, occupations, religious practices, and cultural norms. Understanding this intricate tapestry helps us appreciate how the ancient Egyptians lived, worked, and played in a society that left an indelible mark on history. The home and family life. Housing and architecture. The typical ancient Egyptian home was a modest affair, constructed from mud bricks and often featuring a flat roof. These homes were designed to stay cool in the scorching desert heat, with small windows placed high on the walls to allow air circulation while keeping out the sun. Wealthier families might have homes with multiple rooms and courtyards, while the average peasant's home was more rudimentary, consisting of a single room or two at most. Inside, the furnishings were simple but functional. Mats and low stools were common, and the wealthier households might have wooden furniture adorned with cushions. The walls were often plastered and painted with scenes from daily life or religious symbols. Family structure and roles. The family was the cornerstone of ancient Egyptian society. Households typically included the nuclear family, parents, and their children, though extended family members might also live together. The roles within the family were clearly defined, with the father as the head, responsible for providing for the family through his work, which could range from farming to skilled craftsmanship or administration. Women, while generally responsible for managing the household and raising the children, had considerable rights compared to many other ancient societies. They could own property, initiate divorce, and engage in business transactions. Children were cherished and played a significant role in family life, with boys often learning their father's trade and girls helping their mothers. Education and upbringing. Education was highly valued, particularly for boys from wealthier families. They might attend schools attached to temples or palaces, where they learned to read and write hieroglyphs, as well as arithmetic and other subjects. Scribes, who were essential for administration and record-keeping, required extensive education and training. Girls, on the other hand, were typically educated at home, learning domestic skills such as cooking, weaving, and managing the household. However, daughters of wealthy families might receive more formal education, particularly if they were destined for roles within religious institutions. Occupations and daily work. Agriculture and farming. Agriculture was the backbone of the ancient Egyptian economy, with the annual flooding of the Nile providing fertile soil for crops. Most Egyptians were involved in farming, growing staples like wheat and barley, as well as vegetables, fruits, and flax for linen. The agricultural cycle was dictated by the Nile, with planting taking place after the inundation receded and harvesting before the next flood. Farmers worked long hours, often under the supervision of landowners or officials. Tools were simple but effective, including wooden plows, sickles, and hoes. Livestock such as cattle, sheep, and goats were also raised, providing milk, meat, and labor. Craftsmanship and trade. Egyptians were skilled craftsmen, producing a wide range of goods from pottery and textiles to jewelry and furniture. Artisans often worked in specialized workshops where they learned their trades through apprenticeships. The quality of Egyptian craftsmanship was highly regarded, with items like fine linen, intricately carved statues, and gold jewelry being prized both locally and in trade with other cultures. Trade was an important aspect of the economy, facilitated by the Nile and the Mediterranean Sea. Egypt traded goods such as grain, papyrus, and luxury items for products not found locally, including cedar wood from Lebanon, ebony from Africa, and myrrh from Punt. Professional and administrative roles. Beyond agriculture and craftsmanship, there were numerous professional roles within ancient Egyptian society. Scribes were among the most important, responsible for keeping records, writing letters, and documenting legal matters. They were essential to the functioning of the state and enjoyed high status. Priests and priestesses played significant roles in religious life, managing temples and conducting rituals. They were often wealthy and influential, with some temples owning large tracts of land and employing numerous workers. The administrative apparatus of ancient Egypt was complex, with officials at various levels overseeing everything from tax collection to construction projects. These positions were typically filled by members of the elite, who received their appointments based on merit or connections. Religion and rituals. Daily worship and household gods. Religion permeated every aspect of Egyptian life, with a pantheon of gods and goddesses influencing daily activities. Most households had small shrines dedicated to household gods like Bes, the protector of families, and Tarit, the goddess of childbirth. Daily offerings of food, drink, and incense were made to these deities to seek their favor and protection. Temple worship and festivals. Temples were the centers of religious activity and community life. Major temples were grand structures dedicated to principal deities such as Ammonius, Ra, and Osiris. The temple complex included areas for public worship, but the inner sanctuaries, where the god statue resided, were accessible only to priests. Religious festivals punctuated the Egyptian calendar, with grand celebrations that included processions, music, dancing, and feasting. Festivals such as Opet, which celebrated the rejuvenation of the king, and the Festival of the Valley, which honored the dead, were significant events drawing large crowds. Funerary practices and the afterlife. Belief in the afterlife was central to Egyptian religion, and considerable effort was devoted to ensuring a successful journey to the next world. Funerary practices varied according to social status, but all aimed to preserve the body and provide for the deceased in the afterlife. Mummification was the most elaborate method of body preservation, involving the removal of internal organs, dehydration of the body with natron, and wrapping in linen bandages. The mummified body was then placed in a decorated coffin and buried with goods needed in the afterlife, such as food, jewelry, and amulets. Tombs ranged from simple pit graves to elaborate structures like the pyramids. The tombs of the wealthy were adorned with wall paintings depicting scenes from daily life and religious texts intended to guide the deceased through the underworld. Social structure and class. Hierarchy and class distinctions. Ancient Egyptian society was highly stratified, with a clear hierarchy from the pharaoh at the top to slaves at the bottom. The pharaoh, considered a god-king, wielded absolute power and was responsible for the country's prosperity. Below the pharaoh were the nobles and officials who administered the state and managed large estates. Priests held a special place in society due to their religious roles and control over temple wealth. Skilled craftsmen and scribes formed the middle class, while the majority of the population consisted of farmers and laborers. Slaves, often captives from military campaigns, performed the hardest and most menial tasks. Social mobility and opportunities. Despite the rigid class structure, there were opportunities for social mobility. Individuals could rise through the ranks based on their abilities, particularly in the fields of administration, the military, or as skilled artisans. The education of scribes, in particular, provided a pathway to higher status and wealth. Marriage and family connections also played a role in social mobility, with advantageous unions helping families improve their standing. The pharaohs themselves often married within the noble class to strengthen political alliances and consolidate power. Leisure and entertainment. Music and dance. Music and dance were integral to Egyptian culture, providing entertainment and playing a role in religious and social ceremonies. Instruments included harps, flutes, lyres, and drums, and musicians performed at temples, festivals, and private gatherings. Dance was a popular form of expression, with both professional dancers and ordinary people participating in performances that ranged from solemn religious dances to lively social gatherings. Sports and games. Egyptians enjoyed a variety of sports and games, both for recreation and physical fitness. Wrestling, archery, and boating were common, as were board games like Senet and Mehen, which were played by people of all ages and social classes. Hunting and fishing were also popular activities, providing both sport and sustenance. Feasting and celebrations. Feasting was an important aspect of social life, often associated with religious festivals and family celebrations. Wealthier households hosted lavish banquets with a wide array of foods, including meats, fish, vegetables, fruits, and bread, accompanied by beer and wine. Music, dance, and storytelling entertained guests, creating a festive atmosphere that strengthened social bonds. Food and diet. Staples and everyday meals. The Egyptian diet was largely based on what was readily available from farming and the Nile. Bread and beer were the staples, with bread made from emmer wheat or barley and beer brewed from barley and flavored with herbs. Vegetables such as onions, garlic, leeks, and beans were commonly eaten, along with fruits like dates, figs, and grapes. Fish from the Nile provided an important source of protein, as did poultry such as ducks and geese. Meat, including beef and goat, was less common and typically reserved for special occasions due to its expense. Cooking methods and utensils. Cooking was done over open fires or in simple clay ovens. Pots and pans made of clay or bronze were used for boiling, roasting, and baking. Mortars and pestles were essential for grinding grains and spices. Food was often seasoned with salt, coriander, and cumin, and honey was used as a sweetener. Religious and festive foods. Certain foods had religious significance and were used in offerings to the gods or consumed during festivals. These included bread shaped in symbolic forms, cakes, and special dishes prepared for feasts. Festivals often featured more elaborate meals, with richer ingredients and a greater variety of dishes than everyday meals. Clothing and personal adornment. Everyday attire. Clothing in ancient Egypt was simple but elegant, designed to keep people cool in the hot climate. Linen, made from flax, was the primary fabric due to its lightness and breathability. Men typically wore a loincloth or a simple kilt, while women wore straight-fitting dresses with shoulder straps. Both men and women adorned themselves with jewelry, including necklaces, bracelets, rings, and earrings made from gold, silver, and semi-precious stones. Cosmetics were also widely used, with both genders applying eye paint made from malachite or galena to protect against the sun and insects. Hairstyles and wigs. Hairstyles varied according to age, status, and fashion. Children often had shaved heads or a sidelock of youth, while adults styled their hair in elaborate braids or curls. Wigs were popular, particularly among the wealthy, and were made from human hair or plant fibers. They were worn on special occasions or to protect the head from the sun. Footwear. Sandals made from leather or woven papyrus were the common footwear, though many people went barefoot, especially in the lower classes. Footwear was more elaborate among the elite, with sandals often decorated with intricate designs. Medicine and healthcare. Health and hygiene practices. The ancient Egyptians placed a high value on cleanliness and personal hygiene, believing it was essential for good health. They bathed regularly in the Nile or using basins of water, using natron or soap made from animal fat and clay. Wealthier individuals had bathrooms with stone basins and jugs for pouring water. Medical knowledge and practices. Egyptian medicine was advanced for its time, with physicians who specialized in various fields, including dentistry, surgery, and ophthalmology. Medical texts, such as the Ebers Papyrus, document a wide range of treatments for ailments using a combination of practical remedies and magical incantations. Common treatments included herbal remedies, ointments, and surgical procedures. For example, wounds were treated with honey and bandages to prevent infection, and dental issues were addressed with simple tools and pain-relieving herbs. Magical and religious healing. Magic and religion played a significant role in Egyptian healthcare. Amulets, spells, and rituals were used to ward off illness and evil spirits. Priests, who also acted as healers, conducted rituals to invoke the gods' protection and aid in curing diseases. Temples dedicated to healing gods like Sekhmet and Imhotep served as centers for medical treatment and spiritual comfort. Conclusion. Daily life in ancient Egypt was a blend of work, worship, family, and community. The ancient Egyptians' ingenuity and adaptability allowed them to thrive in a challenging environment, creating a civilization that remains one of the most remarkable in history. Through their homes, occupations, religious practices, and social structures, we gain a deeper understanding of how they lived and what they valued. This glimpse into their daily lives not only enriches our knowledge of the past, but also highlights the enduring legacy of ancient Egypt.